If you're in the market for a medium-sized family SUV, chances are you've considered something like a Toyota RAV4 or a Mazda CX-5. Or maybe you've even looked at something from a new brand like GWM or BYD. But what about Mahindra? The Indian brand has been operating in Australia for nearly 20 years, mostly selling rough and ready utes. But the XUV700 is its best family car yet. It's super affordable and it's packed with features. But how does it stack up when it comes to things like overall quality and drivability? Well, if you hang around, all will be revealed. Mahindra knows it needs to compete on price because it doesn't have the brand recognition of something like Toyota or Hyundai. So the XUV700 is very competitively priced. Now, there is an entry grade for a tick under $40,000, but we are testing the top spec AX7L. Man, that's an awkward name for model grade. And this costs $42,990 drive away.
At this price point, it's definitely undercutting more mainstream offerings like the Toyota RAV4 and Mazda CX-5, and lines up more closely with the MG HS and GWM Haval H6. But the Mahindra has something not many models in the medium SUV segment have, a third seating row. With that in mind, the only real rivals are the Nissan X-Trail, Honda CR-V and Mitsubishi Outlander, all of which are more expensive for an equivalent 7th seat grade when factoring in on-road costs. This 2025 model year update introduces all-black interior trim to both XUV700 grades, while the AX7L upgrades to wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it also now gets ventilated front seats and a memory function for the powered seats. Other standard inclusions are a panoramic sunroof, dual 10.25-inch screens, synthetic leather trim, and keyless entry and start, while the AX7L adds a 12-speaker audio system, wireless charging, a surround view monitor, and a leather steering wheel. Check out my written review at carsguide.com.au for more details.
So, the Mahindra XUV700 has quite a traditional SUV shape, but I quite like what Mahindra's done with the styling. You've got quite big, chunky tail lights, and the headlights are very Mahindra. Now, those of you that might remember the XUV500, which is this car's predecessor, might recall that it wasn't very pretty. This is a much sharper evolution of that design, but obvious SUV things like the wheel arches and all of that kind of stuff, I think it's a really handsome design with quite a bold front end as well. That grille is quite sizable. There's also quite a lot of glass, which we'll get to when we get inside the car as well. So it's quite light in there, but that makes for a good look as well. I don't love these door handles. They're these pop-out handles. They're better than some that can trap your hand in there, but just give me a handle. I just want a handle. Is that too much to ask? So the XUV700's got a nicely designed cabin. There's an emphasis on functionality, perhaps over style, but it's not an unpleasant environment in any way, shape or form. You've got your twin screens directly in front, housed by a binnacle there. You've got a nice looking steering wheel. It does feel a little cheap, even though it is leather. But nice things like stitching all over the seats, all through the dash and on the steering wheel as well. And there's a nice use of mixed materials. So there are some hard plastics, but they don't look unappealing. And that's mixed in with soft touch, and then some piano black elements and a little bit of chrome as well. So there's enough of a contrast there to make it all quite visually appealing. So how practical is the XUV700 cabin? Pretty practical. One thing that I really like is with the standard panoramic sunroof, you get a blind that actually protects you from the sun. So many cars these days have just some sort of flimsy blind that the sun gets in. This is Australia, we need more protection, people. Thank you, Mahindra. That has some other cool features as well. I quite like this extendable sun visor. It's not to hide my face, of course, it's to keep the sun out, and I think that is a clever feature. Now, there's quite a bit of storage up front as well. There's some nifty little pockets. You can fit your phone lying down here next to the actual wireless charger, so plenty of places to put your devices. These cup holders are a little bit tight. I tried to get my bottle in there and it just wouldn't fit. So they're a bit tight, but you've got quite a decent little central storage box here, little key holder in there, which is quite cute. And the glove box is also a decent size. And our lovely CarsGuide bottle fits very easily in the door. In fact, you'll get a much bigger bottle in there, and there's ample storage space for a whole bunch of other things as well. So pretty clever on that front. So the seats are pretty comfortable. There's quite a bit of side bolstering, which is great. Not a lot on the bottom. It does also feel almost too cushioned on the base. There's an element of kind of sitting on the car, not in it, but it's not uncomfortable. Something else I quite like is the fact that it has a fairly, what is now seen as a traditional gear shifter, as opposed to something up here or in a screen or something like that. So good job there. There's a bit of an issue with visibility. So I'm looking in the rear vision mirror now, and the rear center headrest is taking up a lot of the space for my vision. So you're just going to have to remove that and put it in your garage or something like that, because it's quite an impediment. A big positive for me with this car is the fact that there is a dedicated manual air conditioning panel here. So you can choose whatever you want from air conditioning right there. You don't have to go into the screen to do that. However, if you wanted to go into the screen to do that, you can. It's got functionality for both. Now this screen has some tiles on the main homepage. Fun in XUV700, fun with XUV700. Are we having fun in the XUV700? I sure am. But, you know, it's a gimmick, sure, branding, all that kind of stuff, but it's a reasonably functional system. Once you click into any one of these tiles, of course it's radio, and then your phone mirroring and that kind of stuff. Now, I am an Apple person. I've had CarPlay running this whole week. It's been a little bit glitchy in this car, I've got to say. So again, this model year 2025, this grade gets wireless CarPlay as standard now. But when I've been doing the Siri talk to text function, it's quite laggy, so not great. In fact, the screen generally is a bit laggy when you hit one of the tiles or the home button. It just takes a beat to actually do anything. It's also a bit confusing because you've got some vehicle settings in this screen, and then you've got other vehicle settings like for driver assist and that kind of thing in the driver's display, and you've got to access it via the steering wheel controls. So it takes a bit of a while to work things out in this car. I will say I've just come out of a couple of MGs in a row, and I think they're doing a really good job with their multimedia setup. And I think the Mahindra is behind a number of its competitors when it comes to that stuff. A couple of other things for the cons list for the interior. The wireless charger does get very hot when you've got a phone on there. It almost needs a fan, which is becoming a bit more common these days. The other thing is there's a few build quality issues. This panel over here that houses the auto stop start, amongst a few other things, is a little bit loose. So it's just those kind of things that are not quite finessed. The XUV700 has quite a good turning circle, and I found it really easy to park this week. It's got a reversing camera, of course, with a surround view monitor. It's a bit low definition. The surround view monitor is quite good, but the general reversing camera, just the display is not fantastic. It's also very laggy. It takes about 3 seconds for it to show up once you put it in reverse. And if you're on a busy street and you're trying to park, that's got to be instant, so they need to work on that. There's also a lane watch camera here in the driver's display, so when you put the indicator on, it shows up that side or that side of the car. It's also really low definition, so it's kind of a bit too grainy to actually see much. One of the positives about this car is the advanced driver assistance technology. It doesn't bing and bong at you like so many of this car's competitors, and I've really enjoyed that this week. The adaptive cruise control, however, is quite abrupt. When it detects a vehicle in front of you, say on a freeway or whatever, it does slow down quite quickly, and that's in normal mode. Now, you can adjust quite a lot of these systems through the settings, which is fantastic. I'm sitting behind my 6 foot tall driving position, and as you can see, I've got a decent amount of room. There's heaps of toe room. I've got a good amount of leg room, about almost 2 inches between my knees and the back of the front seat, and about 1 inch between my skull and the headliner as well, even with this massive panoramic sunroof. So it's definitely a good amount of space back here. In terms of amenities, there's a couple of really cool functions, one of which is you can, from the rear seat, move the front passenger seat forward via this lever here. So if somebody's annoying you, you can just push them away. It's great. You've got some lower air vents down here, and you've got a little slot for your phone, which is quite useful. Interestingly, there's a USB-C port in the rear seat here, but up front it's just 2 USB-A ports. Not sure why Mahindra's done that, but that's what they've done. You've got a pair of map pockets, although these are quite shallow, and realistically no one's using maps anymore, so I think we need to change the name of these things. You've also got quite a bit of storage in the doors, not just for big bottles, but for other items as well. So functionality gets a bit of a tick. You've also, of course, got some quite shallow cup holders here. These seats are quite comfortable. They're kind of flat on your back, but they are still comfortable. Of course, you've got Isofix on the 2 outboard seats. You've also got barely any transmission tunnel in this car, which I think is very clever given it is a petrol car, but it's quite small. So this middle seat is actually usable. And you've got this nice function as well. If you are on a road trip and you want to have a little bit of a nap, you can just do this. Ah, that's nice. Okay, let's check out the functionality of that third row in the XUV700. Now let's keep in mind that I'm a 6 foot tall adult human man, and those seats are not built for me, but we're going to try and get in them anyway. So this is how you lower the third row. See, it flips up like that. Very handy, very easy, one touch, great. Get the grab handle and in I go. Actually, pretty easy. Okay, so now I'm back here. Yes, obviously it is a little bit cramped for somebody like me, but honestly, there's quite a bit more legroom here than in some of this car's competitors in the third row. So it's not bad at all, and again, let's pretend that I'm a child. This is fine. Like, this is more than fine. Headroom wise, my head is only just kind of touching the roof liner, but I think this is a decent amount of space for 2 kids. They've also got some amenities back here. You've got cup holders on either side, and you've also got air vents as well, which is fantastic, as well as speakers. And you can control the air vents, the fan speed over here as well. And there's also a 12-volt outlet. Now that's of course for the boot as well. But you know what? This could be a lot worse. I think they've done a pretty good job for this third row. All right, so let's check out the boot of the XUV700. First things first, there is no powered tailgate on this model at all. It is manual operation. Now, I wish I could tell you how big this boot is, but Mahindra does not provide the details of the capacity. So I can tell you that it is quite sizable with the third row down, but I failed maths in high school, so I'm not going to pretend that it looks like 500 litres. I just can't do it. But it is quite sizable with those seats folded. The other good thing is that this car has a temporary spare wheel. Now it is housed under the car here, so it's not taking up a lot of the space of the boot. Thankfully, raising the third row is quite easy. You just grab these plastic levers on the back of the seats, pull them up, they're quite light, and they just click into place like so. Pretty easy, but as you can see, it doesn't leave an enormous amount of cargo space when they're in place. So the XUV700 is powered by what Mahindra calls its M-Stallion engine, or it could be M-Stallion, I can't be sure. But it's a 2-litre, 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine, delivering 149 kilowatts of power and 380 Newton meters of torque. It drives the front wheels only via a 6-speed automatic, and there is no all-wheel drive option in the range.
The XUV700 is only available with that petrol engine, so no fuel-saving hybrid or plug-in hybrid options for now. It's also on the thirsty side with an official combined cycle fuel use figure of 8.3 litres per 100 kilometres. That's more than petrol versions of the Outlander and X-Trail. This is the figure I recorded after a week with the XUV700.
So this 2-litre engine, as mentioned, is peppy and quite competitive for its segment. How peppy? Let's find out. It's actually quite responsive, particularly around town and if you're trying to accelerate from the lights or something like that. It does, however, have a tendency for tyre chirp. So yesterday I was trying to beat someone at the lights, as I'm wont to do, and I pulled away at the lights quite quickly and the tyres did the squealing. So they're not a great set of tyres. I've never heard of the brand before, so that's definitely an area for improvement. The 6-speed automatic transmission that comes with this engine is actually pretty smooth. All the shifts are really smooth. The only issue I've encountered was during some of the testing, I was driving down what is quite a steep hill and it held gears and got a bit drony. But apart from that, just around town, it's a pretty smooth transmission. One thing I found quite interesting with this car is the steering. It's really sensitive steering and really light. And it's a little bit too sharp for my liking. I'm fine with a sharp steering helm when it is something like a hot hatch or a performance car or even like a little urban SUV. But a family car like this, when it's too sensitive, if you're distracted by something in the back seat, like a child, for example, that's not great because you're going to move around a little bit on the road. So I'm not against having a bit of a duller steering feel that's a bit slower in a bigger family car. Also, these brakes, ooh, they're really sensitive in this car. You just have to tap it and you've come to a full stop. So be careful with that. So ride quality is a bit hard to pin down in this thing. You'll definitely notice things like joins on a bridge or potholes. And when I was doing some testing yesterday, I was on a pretty average road out past the airport and that was quite busy, the ride. But then driving around town, it's been completely fine, smooth even, nicely balanced. It's challenging. The ride's not harsh, but it's not soft either. It's kind of somewhere in the middle, and it's definitely livable. Look, when it comes to handling, this is not the sportiest family SUV you can buy. If that's the priority, maybe look at something like a Mazda CX-5 or a Honda CR-V. But it hasn't embarrassed itself. Certainly you'll notice in corners it's quite top heavy, so there's quite a bit of lateral movement when you're pushing it into a bend, particularly at speed. But again, after doing some dynamic testing yesterday, it certainly didn't come off looking like an embarrassment. So, you know, you can have a little bit of fun in this car, but it's not the vehicle's priority. So look elsewhere if you want to go fast around bends in a family car. So the cabin is reasonably well insulated, but it could have a little bit more sound deadening going on. There's quite a bit of wind noise coming into the car yesterday. It's quite windy today, and a little bit of road noise, but again, nothing that is a deal breaker.
The XUV700 is yet to be crash tested by ANCAP, so it currently doesn't have a score. However, the standard safety list is strong and includes 7 airbags in this grade, with the curtain airbag stretching all the way back to the 3rd seating row. However, it misses out on a front centre bag. It also comes with adaptive cruise, auto emergency braking, traffic sign recognition and a pilot assist function, but the full safety details can be found in my written review at carsguide.com.au. Mahindra covers the XUV700 with a 7-year or 150,000 kilometre warranty, which is generous but doesn't match Kia's unlimited kilometre term. You also get 7 years of free roadside assist. The servicing schedule changes throughout ownership. So there's a free service at 1,500 kilometres or 1 month of ownership. Then the next service is at 12 months or 10,000 kilometres, whichever occurs first. After that, the term is every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres. So it's a little confusing. There's 4 years of capped price servicing that averages out to about $445 per service. That's about $100 more on average per service than a petrol Outlander.
So there are a number of items in the cons column for the XUV700, and Mahindra would do well to address some of them for the future. But to be honest, none of them are deal breakers, and there are a lot more items in the pros column for this car. For example, it offers excellent value for money. It's a well-built, spacious family SUV that has a third seating row that doesn't feel like an afterthought. By all means, do your own pros and cons list, but this car deserves to be on a lot more shopping lists. For more on the Mahindra XUV700, check out carsguide.com.au.